Former WCW World Champion Lex Luger will be inducted into the Hall of Fame of this year's class of 2025. Just based on the merits and the career that he had, he's someone who should have been in a long time ago. But as he said in the video that they put out, if you asked him 20 years ago if he thought this would ever happen, his life had taken such a dark turn that he figured wrestling was a dead end for him from here on out. His run-ins with the law, his battle with drugs and alcohol, he's estranged from his children. They want nothing to do with him. The death of Miss Elizabeth is what everybody always brings up, which he has said he takes responsibility for. Her death was deemed accidental. She mixed vodka and painkillers. I think she had a bad back issue at the time. And there are some people who think that that's all it was. It was just one bad night. And it wasn't. I mean, a few weeks before she died, the cops were called to their house. They found her with a lump on her head, 2 black eyes, and a busted lip. And he got charged with battery. I don't know what he was on or what he was doing at the time. Probably nothing good. But there's a reason WWE wanted nothing to do with him for so many years, right? He looked to be the next tragedy in wrestling. And I'm glad he's still around. I'm glad he got his life together. But he's not lying when he says that his life, had taken a dark turn. And I can understand people being upset that he's going into the Hall of Fame before Elizabeth does. From what I can gather, her family doesn't want her in. They don't want to have anything to do with any of this. It's like Martha Hart not wanting Owen in the Hall of Fame. There's not much that you can do. It would look awful if you just ignored the wishes of their family and did it anyway.
When you place qualifying same-game parlay bets on NBA games, you could get up to 3 prop bet cards.
Luger suffered a spinal stroke in 2007. He was paralyzed for a long time. He's been in a wheelchair ever since. He's regained mobility a little bit. He still can't walk on his own. And he's been working with DDP over the past year to try to walk again. He's just got so much nerve damage, it makes it very tough. But WWE posted a video of Luger training with DDP on February 19th, when Cody Rhodes pays him a surprise visit to give him the good news in person that WWE is inducting him into the Hall of Fame this year. And it's appropriate given the impact that Dusty Rhodes had on Lex's career. Dusty was the one who gave him the total package nickname. Dusty was the one who suggested that he start using the torture rack as a finish. Luger will go down as having one of the best physiques that I have ever seen in any wrestler ever. Like, he looked phenomenal. And some people shit on him as a worker. He was never the greatest worker, but if you watch Luger in like late 80s NWA, he wasn't bad at all. I actually thought he was pretty good. He wasn't Ric Flair, he wasn't Ricky Steamboat, but Luger's best run in the ring actually came, I would say, 87, maybe 88 to like 90, 91. That was his peak as far as an in-ring performer is concerned. Luger was U.S. champion in 1989. That right there was his peak run. And I remember the great match with Sting against the Steiner Brothers, the first Super Brawl. That was in 91. He ended up in WWE first as the Narcissist, which could have been a lot bigger for him, but they didn't give it enough time before Vince got this great idea that, hey, Lex could be our next Hulk Hogan, because Hogan was on his way out. And he panicked and said, well, we have our new Real American Hero now in Lex Luger. And he switched to babyface. No turn, no build-up or anything, no tease. He just showed up on the Intrepid, and he slammed Yokozuna. In cowboy boots, no less. And then came the big Lex Express bus tour. And I did notice, I have not watched it yet, so I don't know exactly what it is, but the WWE Vault channel on YouTube just posted like a 3-hour-long video of like behind the scenes on the Lex Express. So I would imagine it's just a ton of video from the bus tour, some of which maybe we haven't seen before. I mean, I've seen some of the footage, but I'm kind of interested to dive into it. I guess I can't tonight, but this week I want to dive into it and see what's in there. But they put him on a bus, and they sent him around the country for 6 weeks, only for him to not win the championship from Yokozuna at SummerSlam, which was the kiss of death. And he knew going into the bus tour, apparently, that he wasn't winning the title. So maybe that's why Bruce Pritchard said he was so cranky. Look, I'd be cranky too if I had to ride around on a bus for my entire summer and be away from home and not get to sleep in my own bed. But he was part of one of the most famous finishes in Royal Rumble history, where he and Bret Hart went out over the top rope together. Again, he failed to win the title at WrestleMania 10. He's part of one of the most famous moments in wrestling history, actually 2 of them, in WCW. His return to the company on the very first Monday Nitro, which no one was expecting, not even Vince McMahon. People were shocked when they saw him walk out there during that Sting Ric Flair match, and then submitting Hogan in the torture rack to win the WCW title on the 100th episode of Nitro, one of the all-time great moments from that Monday Night War period. And that's where his career pretty much peaked. He never had another moment that matched it after that. And Vince did not bring him over after he bought WCW, or if he tried to, Luger was probably content to just sit home and collect a guaranteed paycheck from Ted Turner. Although Ted Turner was long gone at that point from AOL Time Warner, I guess I should say. And his life just went downhill from there. But Lex has turned into a real redemption story. Now he doesn't come across as arrogant. He comes across very humble, always with a smile on his face. He acknowledges his mistakes. He's been through a lot of physical challenges. It's jarring to see him so frail and in a wheelchair after seeing him with the body that he used to have. But he's just got such a positive outlook on things. It's nice to see. He said once that if he ever got inducted into the Hall of Fame, he might pop out of his chair for that. He can stand up now. He did in the video with Cody. He gave Cody a hug. Him walking across the stage, or in this case, the ring, I don't think that's going to happen without assistance. Right? Maybe one day. But you can't say that Luger did not have a Hall of Fame career and wasn't one of the biggest stars of that 1980s and 1990s period, which was like the golden age of wrestling. It was. And so in terms of the NWA, you think of Flair, and you think of Dusty, and you think of the Road Warriors, and you think of Sting, and you think of the Horsemen, and you think of Lex Luger. Luger was a horseman too. Luger was a part of all of that. Absolutely. And as far as who should induct him, Sting would make the most sense. I believe Sting is under something of a Legends deal with AEW, so that might complicate things. I don't know if Tony Khan would allow that. I don't see why he wouldn't. He's always been very deferential to Sting. I would like to think that if Luger asked Sting, Sting would go to Tony and ask if he had to ask for permission. Tony would let him. If for some reason Sting can't do it, DDP's got to be the one. But you know who else were stars from that period? Not as big as Luger. Earthquake and Typhoon. I mean, they were much bigger, but they were not as big of a star, either of them, as Lex Luger was. But Earthquake and Typhoon, the Natural Disasters. And per WrestleVotes, the Natural Disasters will soon be announced for the WWE Hall of Fame class of 2025. So they will join Triple H, Lex Luger, and Michelle McCool so far. I swear, Demolition is never getting in alive. Like, I've given up at this point. It's just not going to happen. I thought for sure that they were going to get the call this year. I really did, especially when I heard they signed that Legends deal. So, I mean, unless they put 2 tag teams in, I just don't see it happening. But the Natural Disasters, they weren't even a team for that long. They tagged for maybe a year and a half. I don't have an issue with Earthquake going into the Hall of Fame. He's a former tag team champion, had a main event run with Hulk Hogan that did good business, had runs in WWE and WCW. Right? He also played Golga in the Oddities, which at one time was one of the most popular factions in the entire company during that Attitude Era. Typhoon deserves to be in the Hall of Fame for the Shockmaster's debut alone. He should go in as the Shockmaster, not as Typhoon. Not as Typhoon, not as Tugboat, or any other gimmick. If he's going in, he should go in as the Shockmaster. Okay, I've laughed so hard at that moment, my sides hurt. One of the greatest things ever from Dark Side of the Ring was the producers showing Haku the Shockmaster's debut. He had never seen it before. And they brought it up on their iPad and they showed it to him. And he is just laughing, the most wholesome laugh for like over a minute. It really is the most wholesome thing you will ever see on a show called Dark Side of the Ring. And a guy as notoriously dangerous as Haku, someone that you genuinely would not want to fuck with, sitting there and laughing like that is just one of the greatest things. But I mean, if you could watch the Shockmaster debut and not smile, I mean, you're like John Cena now. You have no soul. But he's also Cody's uncle, Fred Ottman, not Haku. Actually, that would be kind of funny. But he's Cody's uncle. That's where the whole Uncle Fred stuff comes from. His son, Typhoon's son, has worked for WWE for a number of years as a timekeeper. So I mean, he was bound to get in at some point. I wouldn't be surprised if they had Cody do the induction. But it's just too bad that Earthquake is not around to accept it. You know, John Tenta, he was a very nice man. I remember when he got sick with cancer, and he was a frequent visitor on the WrestleCrap message board. And he did some podcasts with them as well. So I mean, it was really him. But they set up an account for him on the WrestleCrap message board, and like a dedicated forum for him so that he could answer questions. And he's just a really nice guy. And gone way too soon. He was only 42 when he died. Can you believe he was only 26 years old when he first debuted on TV? Didn't look a day over 40. He was still in his mid-20s when he worked that program with Hogan. That's crazy.